Hello, my name is Miss Hogarth. Myself, Miss Thompson and Miss Kane are going to go through the folio with you today, introduce you to what the folio is, and we'll learn some more. So let's get started. What will you learn in this video? Well, firstly, you're going to learn what a folio is and what it must contain. After that, we're going to learn what a folio means in terms of the rest of your coursework and why this is important. We're going to go briefly through how a folio is marked, and we're going to show you what you can do next after learning all of these things. So, what is a folio? The SQA descriptor describes a folio as such. The purpose of a portfolio writing is to provide evidence of a candidate's skills in writing for two different purposes, one broadly creative and one broadly discursive. Now later on in the video I'm going to retouch on this aspect of the folio, so keep this in mind. Candidates should be given the opportunity to demonstrate their writing skills at the most appropriate time in the course. For us, this is this term. That is when their writing skills have reached a level of development and maturity required for National 5 English level. There is no time limit for this coursework, and the two pieces of writing can be gathered from across a period of time. So though there's a deadline for a folio where you have to write a certain amount of pieces, you don't have to do it in time conditions such as your critical essay. You can spend weeks making this until the deadline is set by your school. So let's ask the question, why does the folio matter so much? Well, let's break it down. The grades in which we have for National 5 and Higher English are broken down as such. For paper 1, which is your RUI paper in the exam, this is 30% of your overall grade. Now the second paper in your exam is split into two, as seen here. You have your set text, which is 20% of your overall grade, and your critical essay, which is 20% of your overall grade. So paper 1 is 30% and paper 2 is a total of 40%, which leaves us with 30% for our folio piece. The total percentage can be seen a little bit more easily here. 70% is for paper 1 and paper 2, and 30% is for a folio piece. Now this year, paper 1 and paper 2 would be 70% if we had an exam, but we know that we're keeping in mind that 70% will consist of evidence such as our assessments, our prelim, our homework, and any other coursework we may complete. Now just under a third is a folio piece, and I'm going to go into more detail about that now. Usually the portfolio has 30 marks, which is 30% in total of your overall grade. 15 marks are usually awarded for each piece of writing within the folio. The portfolio usually requires candidates to produce two different types of text, one which is broadly creative and one text which is broadly discursive. This means that the candidate must produce a portfolio independently by themselves, but the teacher or the lecturer will usually support that pupil to choose the focus, the theme, the genre, or the pieces of writing. However, this year is a little bit different. This year, the SQA have decided candidates must only submit one folio piece. This one piece will be worth 30% of your overall grade, which can be an absolute game changer, okay? Candidates can choose either one text that will be broadly creative or one text that will be broadly discursive. Now this is advantageous for us because prior there was no hiding. If you were poor at a broadly discursive essay, this will show in your final folio piece. Or if you were poor at a creative essay, this would show in your final folio piece. However, now we can only choose one piece and we can choose our stronger piece. So if you have a stronger creative mind and you would like to do a creative essay, it means that we have the best chance to getting that 30% of our overall total mark.
Hi, my name's Miss Thompson, and next we're going to look at your different options for your folio piece. So deciding on what type of folio piece you'd like to do is going to be an important step, but you have lots of different options available to you. So the first group of folio pieces is the broadly creative group. In this group we have the personal reflective essay, or a piece of prose fiction, such as a short story or a chapter or episode from a novel, a poem or a set of thematically linked poems, or a dramatic script such as a scene or a monologue. And then we have Group B, which is the broadly discursive category. Within this, you have persuasive writing, an argumentative or discursive essay, a report, or a piece of transactional or informative writing. Under normal circumstances, you would select one piece of writing from Group A and one piece of writing from Group B. However, this year you will only submit one piece of writing for your folio, so you need to think carefully about which piece of writing plays to your strengths and suits you best. So we're now going to look at the different types of writing and why you might select this type of writing for your folio. We're first of all going to look at the personal reflective essay. So this is where you would choose an event from your life and reflect on the lessons it has taught you. Reflection is a compulsory element of the personal essay, and this is where you need to think about what this experience has taught you and examine your own feelings and perspectives, both then, so at the time of the experience, and now. Good reflective writing is more than just simply narrating the events of the experience. You've got to write about something that allows you to reflect upon what happened and show self-awareness. So an event that has taught you something in your life or taught you a lesson or something that you've learned from, okay, something that's had a significant impact on you as a person is generally a good way to go for the personal reflective essay. We're now going to look at the creative essay. So you can choose to write creatively in the form of a poem, a short story, or a drama script. A short story is the most popular choice as it gives you more freedom with your writing. The word limit is 1,000 words. If you want to write poetry, then a selection of poems would need to be submitted with correct rhythm and structure. Some people love the opportunity to write creatively as it gives them complete freedom. However, the endless options can be daunting, so it's up to you if you feel that your strengths lie with your imagination. So we're now going to be looking at the broadly discursive categories, such as the persuasive essay. Discursive writing presents an argument related to a given topic. It can either examine both sides of an issue in a balanced way or argue persuasively on one side only. A persuasive essay is where you convince the reader to accept your views and opinions on that topic. So if you've got an axe to grind, then a persuasive essay might be the one for you. A basic structure employed when planning a discursive essay could include an interesting introduction, a clear indication of your position in relation to the topic, your first argument with supporting evidence, your second argument with supporting evidence, and then a conclusion in which you reiterate your position. You will have likely completed persuasive or discursive essays earlier on in school in first to third year. So you can think about, is this something that you enjoyed and is this something that you would like to do again? Do you feel your strengths lie within the persuasive essay? The final piece of writing we're going to look at today is a report. So a report is normally an informative piece of writing, but it can be created with a viewpoint or a bias in mind. It's essentially a short, sharp, concise piece of writing which is written for a particular purpose and audience. It generally sets out and analyses a situation or problem, often making recommendations for future action. It is a factual paper and needs to be clear and well structured. For example, you would need to have subheadings within your report. We're now going to be looking at the word limit for the folio for National 5. The word limit is really important, as if you don't stick to this, you can be marked down. We're now going to be looking at the SQA guidance on the word limit. It says the written text produced by the candidates must be of no more than 1,000 words each, but full marks can be achieved in a shorter piece if appropriate to purpose. for example, poetry. There is no minimum word count. If the word count exceeds the maximum by more than 10%, a penalty will be applied. So it's very important that you do stick to your word count and try and edit it down if you've gone over.
Hi everyone, I'm Miss Kane and today I'll be taking you through how the folio is marked and what support your teacher is allowed to give you. Alright, I need to start this section by saying that the SQA have very strict guidelines on both how your folio is marked and how much support your teacher is able to give you, so it's really important that you make sure you pay attention to this section of the video. So let's look at what your markers are told. Okay. To start with, marking should always be positive. This means that for each candidate's response, marks are accumulated for the demonstration of relevant skills, knowledge and understanding. They are not deducted from a maximum on the basis of errors or omissions. Essentially what that means is that the more you put into your piece of work, the better the grade you're going to get. All right. It's kind of like you're building up points essentially in order to get the best mark that you can. Next up, the candidate's writing will be marked in terms of content and style. I do break this down in the next slide, so we will come back to that later. However, it's worth mentioning at this point. And lastly, assessment should be holistic. There will be strengths and weaknesses in every piece of writing. Assessment should focus as far as possible on the strengths, taking account of weaknesses only when they significantly detract from the overall performance. So again, essentially what that means is that your marker will look at everything you put into your piece of work, the good, the bad, the ugly, okay? And they will take into consideration the big picture that you present, okay? When it comes to weaknesses, things like spelling, grammatical errors, formatting errors are something that can negatively affect your grade. So it's really important that you pay attention to those things. All right, those tend to be kind of the common areas of fault that are very, very easily fixed. Here is an example of the marking table. Okay, at both National 5 and higher, the essays are marked using a grid in a very similar fashion to the way your critical essays are marked for your critical reading papers. As you can see, the maximum score you can get is 15. The one that is currently on your screen is the National 5 creative marking scheme. However, the higher one is very similar. What's now on the screen is the discursive one. You can always pause the video if you would like to briefly read this. However, for both types of writing, you can see that the marks are split between content and style. This links back to the previous slide where it discusses the fact that marking is holistic, which means that they look at the strengths and weaknesses of the entire piece in order to ascertain what grade you get. Essentially, that means that you may have really, really strong content, however, your style is a bit lacking, okay? So you could very easily get into the 13 to 15 category for content, however, your style could perhaps be in the 10 to 12 category, which means that your mark could be in either one of those sections, depending on how heavily one is weighted against the other. So as mentioned at the beginning of this section, the input that teachers are allowed to have in your folio is quite limited. Here are some of the things that your teachers can and can't do. So firstly, your teacher is not allowed to give you a topic or plans. They can expose you to examples of broadly creative and broadly discursive pieces and can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses in such pieces. However, they are not allowed to give you examples that are related directly to your chosen topic. Okay? So if, for example, you were writing an essay on why VAR in football is not a good thing, your teacher couldn't give you multiple examples on that specific topic, if that makes sense. However, your teacher is allowed to discuss your initial plan, chosen genre or theme, directions and ideas for your piece of writing. So if you're really struggling to come up with something, your teacher is allowed to give you some input on that. Lastly, your teacher is allowed to give you verbal feedback on parts of your piece and mark your final piece prior to submission. Okay, so it's really, really important that when your teacher is giving you opportunities for feedback, that you take those opportunities. Okay, like I said, there is very, very limited input from teachers. So when you're being given those opportunities, you need to take them. So after all of that, what happens next? So what are our next steps? Well, firstly, you need to think about which style of writing you enjoy most. Where do your strengths lie? If you're not sure of this, please feel free to have a conversation with your teacher about it. I'm sure they would be quite happy to point you in the right direction. Then you need to read as widely as possible. Opinion pieces in popular newspapers are a really, really good place to start. And lastly, you can also browse the hashtag Folio Inspo on Twitter for ideas. Teachers from all over the country give examples of potential folio topics, mainly for persuasive or discursive essays. However, there are often sometimes other things in there as well. So it's a really, really good place to start if you are particularly struggling.
This brings us to the end of the video. I hope myself, Miss Kane and Miss Thompson helped you understand what is required for the folio from now on. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask your English teacher. Have a good day and please remember to like and subscribe to our channel.